Hi, I am Dustin Pickering from Parrot Literary Corner. You know me, your noble and honest host, and I've got exciting news for you. Last anthology, Series 1, The Literary Parrot, did such a great job. We want to continue to provide this community service to our viewers and to our contributors to the program. So please get up and get a copy immediately. You know, if you're in this book, you want to get a copy. If you're not in the book, you want to get a copy and see what we're doing. You want to be excited with us. We want you on this program, and we hope to see you sometime soon on The Literary Parrot. You have to get your hands on this copy. It's amazing. It's an absolutely beautiful anthology meant just for you. Our past guests have been invited back to contribute yet again to this Series 2. We do this quarterly anthology. We will be doing this after our 200 episode milestone. As of this last quarter, we reached 200 episodes, and past that, get up and get a copy immediately. This is the only TV show on Earth for creative writers, and our guests are amazing. They're also community activists building from the ground up. This program is for everybody out there who is a creative mind. Order several copies if you can and donate to local libraries. Give them to your friends, cousins, fans, supporters, anybody that you think loves poetry. And it's not just poetry in this book. Remember, this is creative mind. So we have prose, fiction, short stories, essays, artwork, anything you can think of, artistically creative, photographs. Everything in this book is packed. It is packed. It is just absolutely packed. You want to get your hands on it now. Hi, this is Dustin Pickering, your noble and honest host of the Foreign Policy Review. My co-host Carlo Porcelli is with us. We have a guest today who is in the anthology, Series 2 of the Literary Parrot, Sankha Sen. He is with us today from Germany. And it's wonderful to have Sankha, and it's wonderful to speak with you again, Carlo. We're going to talk a little bit about the anthology, Literary Parrot Series 2, as well as cap off at the end there with some discussion of Biden's Summit of Democracy, which we will talk about with Carlo at the end of the program. So stay tuned as we discuss this anthology. If you're curious about it, this is the book here, the Literary Parrot Series 2. You've got to get a copy of this. This is amazing. It's on Amazon. Just pick up a copy right now. If you are watching this program, we'd love to have viewers. Leave comments for us too while you're talking, or while we're talking. Any questions, anything you want to say about the book, just drop it into the comment section on Facebook or YouTube. And if you're watching at YouTube, please subscribe to the channel while you're sitting there right now. Just hit that subscribe button and get in touch with us on that platform. So, Sankha, tell us a little bit about your work in this book, and how you feel about the collection as you've perused it over since you've had your copy in hand.
Yeah, as I mentioned, always whether in many digital platform or even on my last interviews. Also, I really want to congratulate you and Mutiu for this brilliant work yet again. This is remarkable. I mean, what I see and what I have in my hand, it is definitely a big progress in what we have now. Like I can see the day-to-day progress which we are making. Actually, I see myself as a part of this team, and compared to the last release, this is, I mean, in many ways, it has definitely improved. Although the first one was also spectacular, the collections which you have and the amount of diversity which you capture in this book, I would request all the viewers to get a hold of this book, and it is really, really very good. I mean, for my part, I would really like to request everyone, if you feel like reading a science fiction, I have actually presented myself this time with a science fiction. This actually I have really accompanied or all the traits of my scientific education and my scientific likings, which I really like. So, for example, I like this astrophysics area, what Einstein did, and what Stephen Hawking really researched, and what is actually the future of mankind's like next steps. So all these things I really like a lot. I watch a lot of videos and films and read a lot of books. So based on this liking, I have actually comprised this with the literature part of it, bringing actually a science fiction story where I cannot tell the whole story now. It is actually given in the book. I would request you to kind of read it and really bring yourself into the future world. Who knows if my science fictions, which I have actually thought now, it might actually happen. I don't need 100 years or 200 years. Who knows if all the theories, which is actually laid forward by the famous scientists like Einstein and Stephen Hawking and Newton, like who knows these theories might at a particular time might come true, and like how I really dream about this world, who knows, this world might actually come and you might actually see yourself there, and you might recollect, hey, maybe 200 years back some guy has written such a science fiction story, and now we are really into this world. And it's a small effort from my side. I would request you to read all the poems, brilliant writers across the globe, and also feel free to come and get in touch with us if you have any doubts. And I would request again and again to everyone to get hold of this brilliant work. And I mean, don't miss the chance of getting yourself into this literary paradise.
Well, thank you, Sanka, for your words of appreciation for the book. Why don't you display your copy for us so we can see it?
Yes, this is my latest copy. I think it
That's
is
series
visible
two,
clearly. That is series 2. And I have also been part of the series 1 as well, the
right?
literary parrot. So I would like to hold this both the copies together. So
We're really proud of these editions, and we're just glad to be able to showcase so much literary output across the world and internationally speaking. This is a massive effort, and we hope that we'll get a lot of support from those out there who are involved, as well as those who are just curious about what's going on in world literature right now. In the current world, as we're suffering under a dark time, as well as seeing a lot of drastic changes being made, and just everything going on right now in this paradise called Earth with the human world. And we're documenting this through our arts and our poetry, as well as our visual art, and as well as through prose, fiction. And as Sankha Sen is telling us about his science fiction and how this may be a future that we will actually be able to encapsulate at some point. So it's wonderful to have you on the show, Sanka. Carla, why don't you tell us a little bit about your impressions from the book and what you've been able to read, and a little bit about maybe even read your own poem again at some point after we discuss a little bit about it.
Well, first, I'd also like to congratulate you, Dustin, and Mutiu on a wonderful job. Magnificent. It's a magnificent publication.
Thank you.
Uh, I'd like to also uh, mention that I don't want to give I don't want to do a spoiler alert, so I won't say how Sanka's piece ends, but I would like to ask him if it was based on an actual experience, or whether or not it's a totally fictionalized or partially fictionalized experience. His short story contribution to the anthology,
yeah,
and I'd like take a moment and ask him that.
that's a great question, Carlo. I mean, actually, I've tried to always analyze the many things, thinking about my identity. I think in many interviews, Dustin and Muti knows that I have already spoken about it. Where do I come from? Where do I go? And what happens if I come out of myself and see me from outside? how do I perceive as an outsider. So all these concepts I keep on thinking, and I have come out of an idea in this science fictions. Really, let's say how if you read the title, it is a little surprising. I mean. Like, so if you can get an essence of it, like this story is something about knowing yourself, even though you are not a part of you. So it is something like that. So read the story, you'll understand the kind of the end part, where it really leads to, why this title is written in this way. So as Carlo mentioned, I mean, this whole thing is like circling about your own identity, and how do you really perceive your own identity coming out of your identity. So in sense like this also talks about parallel worlds, traveling from universes, and all this new theories which are currently theories. It will take years to kind of try those things. I mean, we have seen a lot of films on time travels and all these things, and but they are all on the based on the latest theories, and also the philosophical part of knowing yourself. So it's combined effort, combining all the kind of the most interesting part of mankind today, because human beings are always curious to know more, and the more they know, they feel that there's a lot more to know. I mean, in that case, I think uh, at this current stage, the mankind is really trying to come out of their world and look into other different world and universes. Where do they really belong? Um, whether this is only the universes, or we have multiverses, or we have parallel worlds, whether we exist in different worlds, something like this. So these are the current physical topics of modern physics, and so kind of all these concepts really have come into this kind of story, and have brought into this product. So I think read it, and you will understand more about it. And I think it will always bring a question into your mind about your own existence, because we are born and we die at some day, and we live the 60, 70 years. But what are we, and where do we go? And there are many answers to this, but uh, keep on this thought in yourself alive, keep on this thought ticking in yourself. Don't just get indulged in the daily course of life, work, family, and holidays and all. Always think that this is kind of temporary. I mean, you're not, we are part of this life, yes, but uh, I mean, eventually you are part of a bigger thing. I mean, and where do you really belong? And I mean, if there is something more to know about it beyond this world, I would say tiny world. Think about it, and then you'll see that that all these tiny problems which you're having, this fighting between nations. I mean, comparing, competing, it's just like nothing. I mean, if you take the big picture out of this micro picture, I think only thing which you can get out of it is like, I mean, a sheer happiness out of it. I mean, you'll be really happy if you think that, okay, I'm really lucky to be a part of this time, and get this amount of informations and knowledge, and just forget about these tiny problems which you are actually facing every day, maybe this pandemic, or I don't know. There are millions of problems which the world is currently facing. Um, yeah, so think about it and read it, and I'm pretty much sure this will definitely open a different channel into your mind, and get yourself out of these problems which the mankind is facing nowadays.
I'd like to ask
Good
both
job.
Sandra
Thank you.
and Carlo,
Thank you.
what role, since we're talking about a science fiction story, what role does speculation play in science fiction and in literature in general? Just the idea of, contemplating what might be, based on scientific theory. How does that work into the literature of science fiction?
Oh, you're asking me?
Both of you, actually, if whoever
Yeah.
wants to answer first.
I've actually read very little science fiction.
Okay.
My daughter and I used to read Stanislaw Lem when she was 8 or 9 years old, but
Hmm.
that's about it. We read it together.
So, what's your opinion based on what you've read?
I don't. I I don't really take science. To be honest with you, I'm going to be honest here. I don't generally take science fiction very seriously.
Okay.
First of all, I'm a language guy. I come out of the Joyce School. I come out of a vibrant language that's that uh, the ideas take their shape and form from the kind of manipulation of language
Mm-hmm.
uh, makes a work of literature for me come alive. Rabelais, James Joyce, um, uh, just the Shakespeare, Chaucer, that sort of thing. In fact, when I picked up, when I thought about doing this show, I picked up two books out of my collection, out of my books, and one was T.S. Eliot's Sacred Wood, where he talks about the importance of tradition, and tradition is extraordinarily important to me. And I
Mm-hmm.
picked up Harold Bloom's Anxiety of Influence, which also
Mm-hmm.
talks about tradition
Mm-hmm.
and how the poet or the artist it has this kind of anxiousness about superseding his own tradition. So for me to I'm looking backward all the time. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
looking forward for inspiration.
Right.
Um, I really have very little to say about the science fiction.
Okay.
Um,
That's
so
valid, and we'll talk about your piece a little bit here in a minute. I would like to see if Sanka, what you think. How much role does speculation play in science fiction, in your opinion?
Yeah, actually, if you see my last work in my first in the literary Parrot series one, it was based on exactly on the past part, the emotions, the traditional thinking like romance. Europe is definitely very traditional. I don't know whether you have traveled across Europe. You see the buildings, the churches, and
Mm-hmm.
it talks about the history. So the last story in my first book comes out of that aspect, emotions, romance, and stuff like that. Now my plan is to come out with a different taste now, and so
Mm-hmm.
in this book I really have come across this science fiction area talking. Past was done in the first copy. Now talking about the future, because nowadays if you go to Hollywood, I think pretty much they are more into these areas. The amount of films which comes out nowadays, I think many of them are rotating around these science fiction areas, and this could be a very big trend in the mentality of this new digital world which is coming up. And because we really want to know, okay, the past we have already seen, and we are really curious. I mean, we plan not only finances, we plan our life every day on the future which is really in front of us. So let's say we take the vaccine now, kind of trying to keep our future secure. I mean, so future is really a very big part in our lives nowadays. So I think United States has played a very big role in giving us a lot of great ideas through its films and through its lot of researches which NASA does, and in different areas which they're doing. Even Europe, in Germany, also we having a lot of scientific researches which is going on now. So like a small step today, like in science fiction, can be a big step for, let's say, for tomorrow. Let's say what I'm trying to say is that in the scientists or the researchers, what they do, they try to model their theories in such a way, and
Mm-hmm.
once they model it, they first scribble it into a mathematical formula. Let's take Einstein, for example. But a mathematical formula cannot be understood by the common people. So what they try to do, they take real life examples and try to explain them in a way so that the common people really understand their theories. And hence starts a science fiction story. I mean, if today E is equal to mc square, if somebody tells this, I mean, I am pretty much sure many people will not understand. But what is the consequence? What is the effect of E is equal to mc squared? This is the famous formula of Einstein. What is the effect of it? Hydrogen bombing, atom bombing, and all these things. If if we kind of see ourselves in the real kind of scenarios, then we'll understand the impact of this theory. So I think all the progress of mankind lies in speculating, lies in fictional theories, in contemplating what might really happen in the future, and based on that, all the theories really move. I mean, it's very difficult to kind of prove a string theory now. It's very difficult to prove whether parallel universes really are there, but based on some logic, some rational thinking, the scientific people have really come out of this conclusion that there could be a parallel world.
Mhm.
But it's not possible to prove now. But who knows? In 100, 200 years, they will find out experiment. And I'm still now. I mean, I don't know when did we see our first movie on time machine. It might be in 1970s or 80s. The first time machine movie came out in Hollywood. So now still I don't see a real time machine really there. I mean, people are talking about it. There are experiments happening, but they are really trying to get this fictional theory into paper, and so that
Mhm.
tomorrow uh, it might be possible to travel to past or future. I mean, who knows? Let's take a very small example. I mean, when I was a kid, my grandfather used to tell, don't forget, like one day will come when you'll talk with people and you can see that person also live. So now this is not a fiction anymore. It is reality now. We just open our phone, open WhatsApp, and we can see each other. I mean,
Mhm.
this video call has become live. And if you know a little bit about Indian mythologies and all, if you have heard of Mahabharata, the biggest epic in India,
Mhm.
during that times, I don't know how many years back it is. During that time, they spoke about concepts like when a person in the battlefield explaining something, and person sitting in a palace can see and hear what he's talking. But nowadays, if you see, it's really happening. That thing is really happening. I don't know whether people of that age was also contemplating about the future, or I mean, if you see the stories from the past, they must have also talked about things like the flying, I don't know, flying chariots in the heavens. If you see Greek
Mhm.
mythology, Indian mythology, nowadays aeroplanes, rockets are happening. So science fiction has always been a part of life for mankind, and that really comes into effect many years later. So people are always open for new things for their future, to know in which direction their future is really going. So it
That's an
has been a part
interesting
of our life.
idea. Thank you. Thank you for the comments. I think one thing I want to say is when I'm thinking about possibly the idea of traveling to the past or traveling to the future, one thing that I think is interesting is how fallible actual human memory is. And if we actually have the opportunity to travel to the past, how different our world would actually be. And the spirit of, thinking about memory and how, I mean, for instance, if someone were to commit a crime and the person that was the victim may say, he was wearing a red shirt and a blue hat and whatever, and it turns out that was an invented memory by the person that they imagined it. But then you can actually travel back and witness the crime as a time traveler and see that it was a different picture altogether. So this is just the implications that could be brought from that kind of technology would be quite interesting. We would have a totally radically different perspective of life if we could actually watch things that we remember and see how we have false memories sometimes, or we have our imagination plays tricks on us. So there's a little bit. I think there's a lot of imagination in science fiction. There's also a lot of potential to explore the possibilities of different things that we can actually do, and if we can travel to parallel universes through some kind of technology we invent, see what other possibilities of life there are for the very people. For us, like I may be another person in another dimension doing something that somebody's doing to me now. I mean, I may be Sankha Sen in playing his role in this conversation somewhere else. Who knows? Uh, and, thank you, Richard, for your comments today. It's wonderful. I think you got a great sense of humor and some excellent comments there. It would eliminate the need for juries, he said. Absolutely.
That's great. Yeah.
So, Carlo, tell us a little bit about your own piece, your poem, and maybe we can get you to read it for us. And we're talking about the difference in perspective, your more tradition, and Sankha's work as a future-based speculative science fiction piece. So, tell us a little bit about your work in the book.
Well, just briefly, I like to mention that as a layman, I'm thoroughly versed in quantum theory. I spent the first 40 years of my writing life melding European transcendental philosophy, modern physics, 20th century physics from Planck's
Mhm.
constant essentially on, actually, and back to the calculus, back to Newton and Leibniz. I studied it all
Mhm.
and put it in poetic form, borrowing from Ezra Pound's Canto style, not as politics, but as the form, because it was a poem that contained history. So it gave it, I had this huge ambition, and it was the form I adopted to accept it. And very early on, with my early readings of Hegel and Kant, I began to realize that the problem, the apocalyptic problem, where we're at our now with secular apocalypse, with climate change
Mhm.
and nuclear weapons, as Sankha pointed out, it wasn't philosophy that did it.
Right.
It wasn't and it wasn't poetry certainly that brought the apocalypse about. It was the sciences.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so I began to investigate that and came to the conclusion that it was the mathematization and the quantification of what we used to, like Niels Bohr. Niels Bohr, he was very much against this notion of quantum paradox because he could not visualize it. He had a problem visualizing the paradox, which is still around. I
Mhm.
mean, the way we got around the paradoxes was to have World War II and have all the European scientists come here or go to other places in the world, and then come up and then rely on basically American theorists to come up with mathematizations, quantifications for that got around the paradoxes. Because in America they don't give a shit about the ethics of it, like Niels Bohr did, who was a highly ethical individual, but
Mhm.
not American physicists like Feynman. They don't give a fuck about it. If the mathematics says it's true, it's true. It doesn't matter what your perception says. So that I wanted to get that clear out of the way. Now, this poem I put in here is raunchy. It's raunchy as a motherfucker, and I'm gonna use harsh language to set it up. And there's an interesting anecdote that comes along with it. I was sitting, I was processing book orders. I'm an antiquarian bookseller. I was processing book orders. I got an email one morning, and this guy wanted a copy of this poem. I must have read it out loud somewhere at some reading somewhere. I couldn't really recall. But anyway, he wanted a copy of the poem. And I looked at his name, and the poem's called The Love Song of J. Vivian Chambers, who's also Whittaker Chambers, American historical figure Whittaker Chambers. And his name was Paul Chambers or Peter Chambers. So I said, oh, this guy's related to Whittaker Chambers. He's going to sue me for this poem. And you'll understand if I read it or after I read it. So I said, is there a problem? I just emailed him back. And he said, no, I just want a copy for my archives. And I guess what he's doing is that he's, I guess what he's doing is he's putting together material possibly for a biography, or he's just collecting it because his granduncle was Whittaker Chambers. So that was an interesting anecdote, and there's been no consequences. I sent him a copy of the poem, and there's been no consequences. But I think this poem is kind of a master class in kind of semi-formal structure too.
Hmm.
That I can write in this structure. I normally don't, but I this structured, but I normally don't. And I'll read it now. It's not too long. It's called The Love Song of J. Vivian Chambers, aka Whittaker Chambers. I want to fuck you, Alger Hiss. Hoover your almost Plymouth rocks, and with my face between your Harvard hips, fix my mordant mouth about your commie Brahmin cock. My polecat prick poking about your anus, jousting with Ate at the embargoed hole, who among these hypocrites and liars dare blame us, a Democrat and a Republican, passionately soiled as one Hegelian soul? Draped in our red, white, black, and blue, what other pumpkin could both so perfectly love you and yet be a mole whose very being abjures the truth? Let Angleton and Dulles have their skullduggery, as in the gloved hands of Calvinist whores they secrete the bugs that tattle our buggery, and love becomes the cold weapon of war. Let Cohen have his golden boy, and Tail Gunner Joe his hotel prats, while James Jesus Angleton looks down upon them all, concealed behind the closet slats. Alger, I would strap you to a chair and the garters from your Argyle socks unloose as I stir you with a French Judas kiss and recruit your necktie as a noose. And between the turmoil of Lutheran loathing and pagan need, stab you in your backside until you bleed, loving you to death in my serpent's embrace, and plead the good people not be called upon to decide our case. What is the tide but salt cycling in a wounded moon? Like petty gods, we have cabaled stars that ran with rivers of alien blood and insisted they had been rendered ours. Here we find the corpse of Baudelaire on Mars. There is nothing left to disbelieve. Every lie has succeeded repeatedly, every soul habitually deceived, as death brings victims sweet relief, and truth is but another invitation to grieve. That's it.
Well, would you like to display
Great.
your copy of Parrot Literary Corner's
Sure.
Literary Parrot? There it is. There's a wonderful, excellent copy of Series 2. We're going to take a brief break, and then we'll be right back to discuss this a little bit more. Thank you guys for watching. Just subscribe to our YouTube while you're sitting there and watching this in the wonderful commercial break. Thanks for watching. Hi, I am Dustin Pickering from Parrot Literary Corner. You know me, your noble and honest host, and I've got exciting news for you. Last anthology, Series 1, The Literary Parrot, did such a great job. We want to continue to provide this community service to our viewers and to our contributors to the program. So please get up and get a copy immediately. You know, if you're in this book, you want to get a copy. If you're not in the book, you want to get a copy and see what we're doing. You want to be excited with us. We want you on this program, and we hope to see you sometime soon on The Literary Parrot. You have to get your hands on this copy. It's amazing. It's an absolutely beautiful anthology meant just for you. Our past guests have been invited back to contribute yet again to this Series 2. We do this quarterly anthology. We will be doing this after our 200 episode milestone. As of this last quarter, we reached 200 episodes, and past that, get up and get a copy immediately. This is the only TV show on earth for creative writers, and our guests are amazing. They're also community activists building from the ground up. This program is for everybody out there who is a creative mind. Order several copies if you can and donate to local libraries. Give them to your friends, cousins, fans, supporters, anybody that you think loves poetry. And it's not just poetry in this book. Remember, this is creative mind. So we have prose, fiction, short stories, essays, artwork, anything you can think of, artistically creative, photographs. Everything in this book is packed. It is packed. It is just absolutely packed. If you want to get your hands on it now. Welcome back to the Foreign Policy Review. I hope you enjoyed our commercial break. We're discussing the Literary Parrot Series 2. I want to show you guys Series 1. If you have not seen this, this is a wonderful collection, and this is a 6x9, 249 pages. So if you have not purchased a copy of this, it's still available on Amazon. It's a wonderful book. And Series 2, as we've been discussing, is an 8x10 copy of this. It's 202 pages. including bios of each individual poet, writer, or visual artist in this book. This is an amazing collection. You guys want to just take a look at this if you want to see what's going on in today's world of literature and arts. And if you have not seen our show, the Parrot Literary Corner, you want to get on our YouTube and take a look, subscribe to the channel. So let's talk a little bit more, Sankha, about your piece. What in your impressions of the book overall, real quick. Just for a brief minute, if you could just tell us, what you think overall of the presentation in general, not just any individual piece, but what is your thoughts on the book?
Yeah, I think this is a kind of a milestone for human race. I think I'm not exaggerating it. I'm not telling more than it is. I feel like creativity needs a milestone, and how much creativity we really kind of go into. I think this two books, which has been released, it will really bring people into diverse thinking and diverse literary thinking. And as you have rightly said, it's not about poems; it's about short stories and pictures and all. So without creativity, I think our life is actually nothing. I mean, we just do a routine job and all, but creativity brings happiness, brings hopes, take us back to our past, take us to our future. It's a play about our mind. This mind play is something which is very important, and the more we nurture our mind, the more we are happy. I mean, this book will not keep your mind idle at all. It will let your mind travel throughout the universe. I mean, come out of the universe, go into yourself, understand yourself, go into the past, travel future. So I think this is a spectacular effort which is done, and I'm again congratulating you guys, and go on doing this good job for the society and for the mankind. And I think this will be a kind of a milestone for the human race.
Well, thank you so much for your comments, Sankha Sen. He says this is a milestone. We're going to introduce part 2 of the program with a speech from Biden, Summit of Democracy. So here you go. Take a look, and we'll have some impressions from Carlo Parcelli afterwards.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the first Summit for Democracy. This gathering has been on my mind for a long time for a simple reason. In the face of sustained and alarming challenges to democracy, universal human rights, and all around the world, democracy needs champions. Democracy, government of the people, by the people, for the people, can at times be fragile, but it also is inherently resilient. It's capable of self-correction, and it's capable of self-improvement. And yes, democracy is hard. We all know that. It works best with consensus and cooperation. And as a global community for democracy, we have to stand up for the values that unite us. We have to stand for justice and the rule of law, for free speech, free assembly, a free press, freedom of religion, and for all the inherent human rights of every individual. Democracy needs champions. And I wanted to host this summit because here in the United States, we know as well as anyone that renewing our democracy and strengthening our democratic institutions requires constant effort. American democracy is an ongoing struggle to live up to our highest ideals and to heal our divisions, to recommit ourselves to the founding idea of our nation.
Well, there's some comments from Biden on democracy, and funny. I was going to say the New York Times just ran a headline recently that basically said Biden should not run again for the sake of his party and legacy. So let's have Carlo give us some comments here on the on some of Biden's remarks on democracy and his feelings for the general picture here of the United States representing Summit of Democracy and the various comments he may have concerning this. Go ahead, Carlo. Please tell us what you think of this.
Oh my God! Well, Biden could have just as well dropped his pants and given the speech out of his ass, as far as I'm concerned. Well, geez, give me a break. This is the fucking guy who, I mean, he's been in in the Congress he was in the Congress for decades, but he was in the Obama administration with Hillary and Barack when they fucked over Honduras in a coup in 2009, and they were involved in other coups, not to mention out and out warfare in the Middle East and elsewhere. They were involved in 8 conflicts. So so that in and of itself is now and hundreds of people were killed in Honduras as a result of throwing out Manuel Zelaya. And what's the result? A couple of months ago, the Hondurans elected Manuel Zelaya's wife, Xiomara Castro. She's now the president because they're not going to stand for it. I see Nicaragua up on the screen now. The Nicaraguans in a landslide voted for the Sandinistas back in office. The UN has just recognized overwhelmingly the Maduro government in Venezuela. Nicaragua has just recognized mainland China and given up on Taiwan because the United States won't accept anything they do right. They run free and fair elections. The United States says they're not. It's just lies. Biden is just a liar. Wall-to-wall lies. Wall-to-wall lies. One thing I wanted to do last week, as an example, was to show where the influence was in China, and Mutiu had sent along a BBC Africa report, and there were 1,250 comments, and not one of those, I went through about a third of them. Not one of those motherfuckers, not one of those comments was in favor of U.S. foreign policy in Africa. Not one. Now, not all of them were in favor of China being in Africa. Perhaps about half were in favor, but at least some were. Some said basically they wanted Africans to take care of Africa, which I understand too. But I'll read you some of the comments. I couldn't find the page last week, but I'll read you some of the comments. So I got a lot I want to go to talk about this, because this summit was just horseshit, and everybody knows it was rhetorical horseshit, and nobody paid any attention, and perhaps I shouldn't either. But here's a few comments from Africans about American foreign policy in Africa. There you go. The first one is very simple. China is far better than the U.S. Second one, I support China 100% in connection to Africa. Let them build us modern roads, bring railway trains and software and other things. The USA has been in Africa for decades, and all they bring to the table is ammunition. Hey, hallelujah. America has for a long time neglected and ignored. This is another comment. America has a long time neglected and ignored Africa. But when China came and started building and loaning funds, America and her allies were furious, unleashing massive black propaganda smear and vilification campaign against China. They were hoping to stymie the Chinese infrastructure project. Unfortunately, their intentions were unmasked. You're not fooling anybody, Joe. And Fat Donnie and Barack and Clinton and the Bush assholes. You're not fooling anybody. They're on the ground there. They know what cocksuckers you are. They know what vicious motherfuckers you are. They're not being fooled. And next comment: Uncle Sam invade China builds. Yeah, simple. Another one: America should leave Africa alone. America is all about destruction. USA and Europe should take out their clown face out of Africa. They don't do any humanity there. We ain't poor. They say we're poor. Who takes things from poor people? History is just repeating itself. That's a great comment. Who takes things from poor people? Ha! Yeah, exploitation. I'll just do one or two more. We Africans never need neo-colonial seekers of Western power. We need the real friends, just like China and Russia. So shove it up your ass, Joe, and go fuck yourself. One of the guys that was invited to this fucking summit for democracy is Juan Guaido, the self-proclaimed president of the United States, because Bolton and Elliott Abrams and Pompeo concocted this stupid plan where this guy would just declare himself president of Venezuela. He never got a single fucking vote for president, not one. He never even ran for office as president. Now the U.S. stole all of the assets and gave it to Venezuela and gave it to this clown, this fucking motherfucking clown, Juan Guaido. And what has he done with Citgo and Matamoros, the fertilizer plant, the fertilizer company that Venezuela held in Colombia? He's bankrupted them. He's fucking bankrupted them, and the creditors are coming to take. They're coming to take the companies away from the Venezuelan people, who will never see any of that money again, because these motherfucking things will be tied up in court for decades. Who actually owns it now? Because of the U.S. motherfuckers, these slimy bastards, stole it from the Venezuelan people. So, and if you think that wasn't by design, that they knew Guaido was a corrupt asshole who was just going to take hundreds of $1 millions for himself and his cronies, which they've done, and bankrupted all of these institutions, these Venezuelan people-owned public institutions and companies, you're mistaken. It was by design. It's a vicious plan to starve the Venezuelans, to steal the shit from them, to steal everything from them. So fuck Biden, and fuck everybody in Washington. Fuck them all. It's outrageous. It's beyond the pale. This list of people invited to this Zoom summit. Do you know the United States, as far as I can count, has run 28 coups, run coups against 28 of the countries there, and invaded another dozen or so, and killed thousands of people in the fucking people they invited. How is that democratic? If you stage a coup against the country, how can a country come to your Zoom conference and go, oh, the United States is all for democracy? You have duly elected people, and then if they're not the people that Washington wants, they fucking come and they coup them, or they sanction them, or they sabotage them, or invade them, or bomb them, or drone them. Jesus Christ, what is he talking about, democracy? I would, if I sat down next to a guy at a bus stop, and he laid that shit out for me about democracy, I would take him to the nearest mental hospital. It sounded like Biden was a mental patient. And you got that idiot Antony Blinken, Secretary of State, going on about, we want to protect journalists all around the world. What about Julian Assange, you lying cocksucker? Why don't you protect Julian Assange? He needs protection. He's the one. Why you won't protect him? Because he exposed what a bunch of lying bastards you are. That's why you won't protect him. That's all it is. Wall-to-wall lies. But, everybody with any kind of common sense knows that Biden doesn't give, my phrase, a rat's rectum about democracy. Not a rat's rectum.
To read Richard's comment, China is smart to make Africa dependent on their resources. China doesn't think in terms of decades. They plan 50 to 100 years into the future. Still don't think they have Africa's best interest in mind any more than the USA does. It's just a different brand of enslavement. How do you feel about that, Carlo?
Well, if you're dead, if the U.S. comes in and murders you like they do in Somalia and Ethiopia, look at Ethiopia right now. Richard, whatever your name is, look at Ethiopia. The United States has the Tigray region, the people in the region, they held power for 3 decades, and they just lost an election. So what do they do? They team up with the United States through South Sudan, where the United States also had led a civil war against Sudan proper, and they're starting to feed arms and weapons into the Tigray region to destabilize the government in Ethiopia, and it's costing hundreds of lives so far, and with the potential of costing thousands of lives, and all because they don't want Ethiopia teaming up with Eritrea, and then on top of that, the United States just had a coup in Sudan proper, so that facilitates them moving weapons and arms through to South Sudan and gives them more of a border with Ethiopia, just to kill people, to steal their natural resources. China ain't killing anybody. The United States has nearly 1,000 foreign bases, at least 800, but the number's placed at some as high as 12,000. How many does China have? 2. They have one in Djibouti and one, I can't remember elsewhere. Foreign bases. They only have 2. That's because they're building things like the Africans said in the list I held up. They build things, and the U.S. bombs them. Have you been paying any attention to the Middle East? The U.S. CIA destabilized Syria using Islamic fundamentalists that they armed in Afghanistan. And where are we with Afghanistan? They're out of Afghanistan. They're fucking gone. The Chinese are 1,000 times better, because you could count the number of people that they've murdered. Well, I guess on one hand, because you never hear reports of literally millions of people. That's why this Uyghur situation is so fucking infuriating. First of all, the Uyghurs are being trained by U.S. military people here in America and elsewhere around the world, and the French and the British are helping them train them. So they launch terrorist attacks all throughout China. The Uyghurs do, but and that's sort of the same thing that the U.S. did with Tibet when they brought a bunch of Tibetan insurrectionists to Colorado back in the 50s and trained them to go and fight against the Chinese in Tibet. So the U.S. is meddling there and trying to destabilize the country and causing the death of hundreds and potentially thousands of people. And this is the way the U.S. operates. It's a murder incorporated to steal and exploit all of the resources around. All I can do is read the PNAC report or NSC 68. It's in the official record. It's there. This is what we're all about. You had 3 to 5 million people murdered in Southeast Asia, in Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, and Thailand. That wasn't the Chinese. The Chinese, if anything, they didn't even really send the Vietnamese any substantial amount of weapons, not even send them amount of weapons, because they have this long-standing hostility, the Vietnamese do, toward the Chinese, which predates the Viet Minh and communist Vietnam. So, you look at Yemen. Here you have Yemen. The United States provides tons and tons and tons of weapons to Saudi Arabia to destroy Yemen. Murdering people right and left. The Chinese aren't murdering people. They're not murdering anybody. Name who they're murdering. Supposedly the Uyghurs, they're not murdering the Uyghurs. That's bullshit. That's all propaganda. If you want deep analysis of that and a plethora of facts, go to the gray zone. Talk to Max Blumenthal. Talk to Ben Norton. Talk to Aaron Mate. They got all the facts. They've been doing it. They've been on the ground. You're interested in Central America? Ben Norton is now living in Nicaragua. He can tell you all about it. These are a bunch of cocksucking liars. And the Chinese are far better. And the Russians, too, for that matter. Look at Ukraine. I told the Ukrainians 30 years ago, maybe 25, I used to have another blog. And I told the Ukrainians, and they didn't want to believe me. I said, if you align with neoliberal policies of the West, they're going to screw you. Well, they ran a coup against the guy who was Yanukovych, who was favoring Russia, They ran a coup against him, the Barack Obama thugs, and then what happened? The Ukrainian economy is now last in Europe. That it's like it's a nightmare in Europe. I know some of the artists over there, and the parliament is de facto controlled by neo-Nazis. The Azov battalion is now literally walking the streets of the cities and towns. They're Nazis. They're old Hitler Nazis. They fought beside the Nazis, beside Hitler, and this is what the U.S. is promoting. Jesus Christ! I never heard of China doing anything like that.
Let's take a look at Biden's speech. Let's take a look at thank you, Richard, for your comment. And let's take a look at Biden's speech one more time, and we'll let Carlo take apart some of the comments in the speech one more time. Let's get.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the first Summit for Democracy. This gathering has been on my mind for a long time for a simple reason. In the face of sustained and alarming challenges to democracy, universal human rights, and all around the world, democracy needs champions. Democracy, government of the people, by the people, for the people, can at times be fragile, but it also is inherently resilient. It's capable of self-correction and it's capable of self-improvement. And yes, democracy is hard. We all know that. It works best with consensus and cooperation. And as a global community for democracy, we have to stand up for the values that unite us. We have to stand for justice and the rule of law, for free speech, free assembly, a free press, freedom of religion, and for all the inherent human rights of every individual. Democracy needs champions. And I wanted to host this summit because here in the United States, we know as well as anyone that renewing our democracy and strengthening our democratic institutions requires constant effort. American democracy is an ongoing struggle to live up to our highest ideals and to heal our divisions, to recommit ourselves to the founding idea of our nation.
America's democracy is an ongoing struggle. Let's see, Carlo, what do you think of generally what he says there? Just throw your thoughts out. We have a couple minutes to end the program, so just feel free to speak on that.
Well, what can you say? It's like Bizarro World. It's empty rhetoric at its emptiest. It's shallowest. It's hollowest. The notion that he used mind and what something other in the same. He has a mind, you know. If they want to do something to turn me around like 1 degree or 2 degrees, free fucking Julian Assange. Free him right now. You know, stop killing him. I mean, a plot comes out. The CIA was plotting to kill Assange. To kill him. To assassinate him. Where's democracy come into that? Extrajudicial executions, which they do all the time. They pull people off of streets all the time and throw them into these prisons all around the world. They said they stopped doing it. The CIA didn't stop doing that for 1 fucking minute. They're still extraordinarily renditioning people all over the world. The U.S. never believed in democracy. It never, the elites never had any intention of doing anything democratic. Ask the Indians, ask the slaves, ask the unions. You know, fuck them. They're full of shit. You know, the Indians are still starving. African Americans are still trying to get a modicum of justice, and the unions are dead. So, come on, who would credit Joe Biden? Joe Biden locked up more young black males than anybody in the history of this country, and he brags about writing that policy. So fuck him, fuck them all. You know, they're disgusting people. They're psychos. They're fucking psychopaths. And I started calling them psychopaths 40 years ago, and now it's caught on.
Yeah, the elites that are running things, the oligarchs, and there's a higher percentage of psychopathy amongst those particular group. So yes, I agree wholeheartedly.
Even yeah.
Want to bring up
There's
the
even psychological
Parrots,
data. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Quite all right. We got the program closing here. So this is the Literary Parrot Series 1 and Series 2. Pick up both copies if you haven't picked them up. Go back and watch the program again. Get a little information about Series 2. Series 1 is still available on Amazon. This beautiful 6x9, 249-page book, The Literary Parrot. We're getting back into doing interviews. Tomorrow we should have one coming up for you guys on the Literary Corner again. And this has been the Foreign Policy Review. If you have not subscribed to our YouTube, please do. Follow us on Facebook. Like, share, and love our content as wholeheartedly as you can, as often as you'd like. We would love to have any comments on the program. So feel free to leave your comments during the program, after the program. Tell us what you think. Give us some input. We love input. This is what we do. And we're glad that you watched the program today. For all our viewers, especially Richard, for his comments. Thank you so much for watching this program. And thank you, Sankha Sen, for being a guest on this edition of the Foreign Policy Review. And again, thank you, Carlo, for your commentaries. And we'll be back again next Thursday, 11 p.m. Central Standard Time, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So take a look again, and we'll see you then. Thank you for watching. Hi, I am Dustin Pickering from Parrot Literary Corner. You know me, your noble and honest host, and I've got exciting news for you. Last anthology, Series 1, The Literary Parrot, did such a great job. We want to continue to provide this community service to our viewers and to our contributors to the program. So please get up and get a copy immediately. If you're in this book, you want to get a copy. If you're not in the book, you want to get a copy and see what we're doing. You want to be excited with us. We want you on this program, and we hope to see you sometime soon on the Literary Parrot. You have to get your hands on this copy. It's amazing. It's an absolutely beautiful anthology meant just for you. Our past guests have been invited back to contribute yet again to this Series 2. We do this quarterly anthology. We will be doing this after our 200 episode milestone. As of this last quarter, we reached 200 episodes, and past that, get up and get a copy immediately. This is the only TV show on earth for creative writers, and our guests are amazing. They're also community activists building from the ground up. This program is for everybody out there who is a creative mind. Order several copies if you can, and donate to local libraries. Give them to your friends, cousins, fans, supporters, anybody that you think loves poetry. And it's not just poetry in this book. Remember, this is creative mind. So we have prose, fiction, short stories, essays, artwork, anything you can think of, artistically creative, photographs. Everything in this book is packed. It is packed. It is just absolutely packed. If you want to get your hands on it now,